be talking about the new generation that is coming into adulthood. Busting Fear is about having hope. And I really think that we need to talk about how things can be changed very quickly and be done by a group of people, a new generation. So I have here with me tonight Malie Kenworthy, and I'm going to have her talk to you a little bit about who she is so that you'll know about that. So Malie, tell them how old you are, where you've lived, that sort of thing.
Okay, I am 24 years old, and I've lived here in Washington, Vancouver, Washington, for a year now. I've been all over the place. I've moved a lot because of military and other factors. Before this, I lived in Arizona for 10 years, and I'd have to say this is by far my favorite place, is Washington. It's very beautiful.
I agree. So what kind of education have you had?
I'm halfway through getting my bachelor's in business management and entrepreneurship, and I've taken a break to pursue becoming a nurse because I've been a nursing assistant and a caregiver for 6 years now. And I'm also interested in art. I want to go to art school as well, but that might have to take a back seat for a little while.
Is that because art school is expensive, is that correct?
Well, the school I want to go to is a private school in Portland, Oregon, and it's $100,000. So, yes, I'm trying out for competitive scholarships, so we'll see how that goes.
And I'd like to say that Malie is a great artist. I wish we had her artwork here to show you. She has focused, I would say, at least somewhat on Egypt and the Egyptian culture. And why would you say that you've had that focus?
Okay. Yes, I've focused a great deal on ancient cultures and cultures in the Middle East and Asia a lot because of the esoteric knowledge that they have, and I'm just very interested in culture as a whole, and I always have been. And I bring spirituality into my artwork a great deal because I think that art is a way of conveying new ideas to the world because people tend to get stuck into ways of thinking and being limited in their ways of thinking. And artists have a way of bringing about new ideas. And that's what I love about art because it's unlimited. You can do anything with it, just like music, you know.
Okay. Now, I think I introduced you a little bit to Disneyland and Mickey Mouse, and you've thought about also doing some paintings about Mickey Mouse, correct?
Yes, I have many ideas for my art, and I want to incorporate Disney and other things into my artwork because I know how much people love Disney. So
just bringing joy to people. And you've gone to acting school, is that correct? So that's
yes.
Another possibility for
Well,
you?
I've done 6 months of acting school and modeling. It was both acting and modeling before.
And do you have any thoughts about, you know, if you're going to pursue that particular?
Well, I've always thought of pursuing it. Honestly, I haven't done much with it, but it's something that I'm very interested in. Because again, I look at cinema as a means to reach people, like not just a form of entertainment, but it's something I have always been interested in. It's like an art form, you know.
I agree.
So.
I think film can give so many messages to people. You know, not everybody's a reader of books, so it's great to put information out through film. Also, let's see. There's a book called Generations, and the authors talk about the dates of generations such as the baby boomers, which is what I'm part of, is baby boomers. And I'm just wondering, actually, when that book talks about the different generations, it also talks about what those generations have accomplished in during their time here. And so I'm just wondering what your generation is called.
I'm a part of the millennials, is what they're called, the new millennium, and that's basically based on the explosion of technology, and we're in the information age now. And your generation was the baby boomers because of the war, World War I and World War II, and my generation is just very focused on new ideas, and all the technology and technological advancement is really driving much, I would say almost everything that's happening right now in the world. It's connecting people across the globe, and it's making different things possible that people would have never thought possible, in my opinion.
So do you, I mean, that's a generalization about your generation. Do you think that there's how would I say it, maybe a couple of sentences of what your generation is here to accomplish?
I think that every new generation is here to accomplish a new way of living. Every new generation is not completely satisfied with the old ways of doing things. And we talked about this earlier. It's a new renaissance. And 5 centuries ago, there was a renaissance where there was explosion of new ideas and art and, philosophy, new ways of thinking and being. And I think that's happening again because people are not satisfied with the way that we've been living. And an example would be 20% of the world's population owns 80% of the wealth. And that's extreme imbalance, and it's becoming more extreme, and people are beginning to do things about it because they're not happy.
Also, I'd like to say that this is live streaming, and so you could call in if you want to ask a question. The number is 360-693-7544 in case you'd like to call in. What are you focused on to do your part in accomplishing this change?
Well, I've always been focused on equal rights. I would say women's rights, but I believe in equality for all. So right now, I've been able, through the internet, to reach out to a group of women in Pakistan, in Punjab, Pakistan. And this woman, I found her through the Malala Fund. If you don't know about Malala, you should look her up. She's the youngest person to ever win the Nobel Peace Prize. And I met this woman through her page on Facebook, and her name's Rifai Arif. And she started a free education fund called Zephaniah Free Education, because right now 70 million it's close to like 100 million people are not in school, or children are not in school because of poverty or a lack of not being able to access education. So she started her own school, and she's teaching people for free. And I've actually been helping support her financially do that. So.
Let me think about this. So your recommendation would be for people to research and discover some projects that they really want to put their energy and money into. Is that right?
Yes, there's plenty of things that people can do, and there's really no excuse as to why you can't do research now and figure out like where you can help. That's just one small area like of where I'm helping right now. But yes, I did research, and that's how I found her. And is that a good way?
Yes, and I think people can do that. Another question is, I think that you believe in extraterrestrial civilizations, and you're very interested in UFOs and that whole area of study. Do you have any words for people about that?
Well, I just have to say that I think people should keep an open mind, because we're one planet in a galaxy in this universe, and there's billions, maybe trillions of galaxies, and the reason we should be open to it is because we don't know, we don't know about ETs and if we might be connected to them. I'm just saying, have an open mind. And I know people who've seen UFOs, and I believe that there's other intelligent beings, and they might be more intelligent than we are.
Okay, and what are your spiritual beliefs? Could you share those?
Well, I was raised religious. My mother and her family are born-again Christian, and my dad married a woman from Greece, and she converted the family to Greek Orthodox. So I was religious for a while until I was 17, and I started exploring different ideas on my own, because people, for the most part, are not going to encourage you to explore outside of the box. But I was not satisfied. I do believe in God, but I am very open with my beliefs, and I believe in reincarnation. I believe in the possibility of ETs. I'm interested in many things: astrology, numerology. I believe everything is energy. Even scientifically, everything is energy. Nothing is solid, even though we perceive it to be solid. We live in a constantly changing world, and I believe that it's influenced by our thoughts, which is why it's so important, especially for my generation, to make changes in order for us to progress as a species. Because even if we become technologically advanced, that doesn't mean that you're spiritually advanced. There's more than just one level of intelligence. There's also emotional intelligence. And if you're just focused on intellect and you have no emotional connection, then you're really missing out on the big picture, because that's what people are. We're emotional, spiritual, not just intellectual. We're complex. So I also believe that it's good to be well-rounded in your education. Not just traditional education, but you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Every generation is really complex. So you're a complex person.
Well, I'm just saying we're moving into a different era, and I don't think people realize that because it's happening so quickly. But during the industrial age, people were focused on, okay, ABC, we have to get a job, or we have to go to school to get a job to pay the rent. Well, that's not satisfying anymore, because people need, a household can't just have one job. People need two jobs. The parents can't support a child with just a job alone. So I think it's good for people, I'm just saying this because I've done a lot of my own research. It's good for people to be financially and business educated, not just traditionally what is math, what is science. That can only get you so far unless you plan on getting your doctorate in a scientific field. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Now, tell me about your parents. They came from another generation.
Yeah, my parents are Generation Xers. That's what they're called.
And You told me that they were certainly a rebellious generation.
Yes, both of my parents were very rebellious, and my dad, he's an artist. He's had his own company for 25 years now, and my mom, she's basically been a nursing assistant most of her life. So.
Okay, what kind of art does your dad do?
My dad, he started out in construction, and he would put structural beams to support mansions in North Seattle, but now he lives in Arizona. And now he works with art mostly, like building metal sculptures and things like that.
And doesn't he also do like gates?
Yeah, he does gates and fireplaces, and he can do anything with metal.
Well, and I think that probably that's how he makes his living, is because he can do original things for people that have quite a lot of money, and they can say nobody else has this particular type of
Yes.
gate or fireplace. Do you have anything else to share about your parents as far as that generation and
Well, that generation definitely had an influence on my generation. I think because they pushed the boundaries a lot, that influenced my generation to be more open-minded even than they are. And like I said, technology like the iPhone and the Apple devices and Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, like all of that is influencing us. I'm able to connect with someone across the world and help them, and that's never happened before. So
it's an excellent point. I think that the world is so interconnected that it's a way to change things dramatically, and maybe not that we don't always see the big changes, but then after a while we notice things are different, and so I think it's a great way to change our world. Let me think about this. The type of work you do, where you're working with elderly people like me, do you find that you've learned a lot from work? Here you are at 24 years old. You've been doing this for 6 years, and you're working with people, much older in my generation, the baby boomer generation. So, what has that taught you, as far as people and how to look at life, why you should be careful about how you think?
I would say people's health is a concern because I see a lot of unhealthy people, and I won't say much about the pharmaceutical industry because I believe that certain medications are helpful. But I mean, it's just my own personal belief that, you should focus on food as your medicine and not lean on drugs so much. It really affects your brain because we're also chemical. Like, our bodies are made up of chemicals. So I think health is a concern, but also I've learned working with the elderly that time does go by fast, but use your time wisely. People don't realize how much time they have, even though time does go by fast. It's never too late to change. I've taken care of people over 100 years old, and they were still going strong. So I think that's a good message. It's never too late to change your path, or.
And how does it work with families? I mean, sometimes families are very attentive and come to visit these people, and sometimes there's no one.
Well, unfortunately, in my experience, because I've taken care of over 60 people at this point, 9 times out of 10, the family does not visit the resident or the client. which I'm not putting families down, but I've just noticed it might be the culture in America, but you and I have talked about this. People are promoted for extreme independence, and sometimes I think that might be taken too far, like there's an imbalance. So it would be nice to see people visiting more and caring more in general, not just in the homes that I'm in. So
I agree. I think that, and I heard the story about the guy who had lived his life going all over the world, different places, did not have a family, did not have children, and he felt that he should have had children to take care of him as he got older. But that's one of the reasons I ask you this question, is because it is no guarantee that that family is going to be there for you. But as you said, it's the new independence. And could you talk a little bit about the positive effects of the new independence?
Well, I think being independent is causing people to, well, reanalyze their life, and there's not as much control as there used to be. Maybe in certain aspects, I know people would argue with me and say that there is control, about the government and this or that. Especially like in the Middle East and places like Asia, I'm talking about family dynamic more of, and when it comes to women, we've had to really fight to have independence. In America, it's pretty much obsolete, like the struggle with women having independence. We're very independent, but we don't always remember that there's other women, millions, that are struggling. In America, we don't see a lot of suffering. Like, we know it's there, but we choose to be indifferent towards it. And an example of that is, I was just reading a National Geographic magazine, and the United Nations estimated that by the end of 2013, over 50 million people had been displaced because of war or things of that nature. And most of those were women, and we just take it for granted in America, like all the independence we have and even the education, because it's practically thrown at us. But many people don't have that privilege.
So from my perspective, I think your generation is here to bring not just a more peaceful world, but a world of peace. That's from my perspective.
Yeah, and I think it's more complicated than that, because, people always say, I want world peace. And I know people have free will, but we need more balance in the world. And a part of that is, women having equal rights to men. I'm not saying, like, they have to have the same roles or anything. I'm just saying in the way that they're paid, for example.
Well, and I think each culture brings a different perspective as far as the role of men and the role of women. And so, but I think on a worldwide level, we're moving towards being more equal, male and female, in each culture. Because there are women that actually are protesting. I think in Saudi Arabia, the women are not allowed to drive, and yet there was someone that was driving a taxi, I believe, or something.
Oh, yes, I saw that. There was a woman who stood up and was like, no, despite being threatened, I'm still going to drive a taxi even if they threaten my life.
So, I think that this is true, that some women have the courage to actually stand up and they get killed, and they are imprisoned. But it's just like the suffragettes in the early 1900s in America. In order for females to vote, they had to go through a lot. And I think that that's exactly what is happening in other cultures throughout the world. So I think your generation is not just changing the world from an American perspective, but it's a generation throughout the world that's making a huge change for our world.
Yes, I agree. And it has many different aspects to it, not just, education and, human rights, but also with animals and the environment. These are all really big issues. What's your take on global warming?
Well, I think there is, to some extent, global warming because we use a lot of gasoline to drive our cars and get around, and there is a change on this earth when these things are happening. I'm not sure because I don't know any of the details, so I don't know if global warming is doing as much damage as some people claim. I think our Earth is going through a change in and of itself anyway. So, anyway.
Well, even, astrologically, I mean, I know not everybody is into that. There's changes going on right now, many changes, and we have many solar flares which affect the Earth. I've done research on that too, and, the Earth is magnetic, and we're connected to that magnetic field because we have a magnetic field. And when the solar flares hit us, they have an effect on us, like physically and mentally. And Dixie and I have even watched a documentary on that I highly recommend that you watch. It's called Solar Revolution. And it talks about the different phases that humanity has gone through and how the sun has played a role in that. And I'm not just talking astrologically, I'm talking scientifically, like how the sun has an effect on us. We bring up global warming, and it doesn't just affect the environment, it affects us too.
Yes, it affects our pineal gland and can make us even happier. Okay, so I think that's about it, and thank you for being on here, Millie. I wish somebody would call, but that's okay if they don't. At least people will see it. Okay, and I think we're going to have some music.
Oh, okay.